The views and opinions expressed by the guests and contributors on Conklin and Company are not necessarily those of 13 ABC. Now, Conklin and Company continues with Take 3, commentary and analysis from our panel of political contributors.
Welcome back, everyone. Take 3 back this week with the Blades' Tom Troy. Been a busy man of late. Yeah, boy, a lot of things to talk about on a local front, Tom, statewide front, and in general, politically. First of all, office politics, the office of Lucas County Auditor.
Right.
Since we last had you on, we haven't talked much about Anita Lopez, John Navarre, and basically the fight from within.
Right.
Where do you see this going now, Tom?
Well, John Navarre came out last week and had his kind of a kickoff, I guess you could say. It was really his first public appearance during this campaign. He's got a good name. I believe he's a cousin of the former police chief, Mike Navarre. And he has worked in the auditor's office for 12 years, so he knows auditor office issues. And he's taking on an incumbent who ought to be unassailable, but who had a very tough campaign for mayor, exposed a lot of problems with her campaigning style. And so you take into consideration her flaws as a candidate for mayor, which aren't necessarily flaws as a candidate for auditor.
Right, correct.
But also, people, there's a little bit of pushback to the reductions in property values that she has really led the effort on since being auditor, and some people are starting to say those reductions were too great. My property value is reduced because my taxable value is down.
That was her platform as mayor, basically, right? Running for mayor.
Right.
John Navarre said he's actually more qualified to run the office. He's an appraiser?
Because he's a certified appraiser, licensed appraiser. He's actually been doing the work of appraising. Of course, the auditor has a lot more responsibilities than just appraising property. The auditor also is the paymaster, if you will, for Lucas County. The auditor handles licenses for dogs and also testing of licenses.
So many tentacles to
disparate things that have nothing to do with each other.
And you have the stickers on the gas pumps that when you go to fill up your tank too. So it's the weight and measures thing too, right?
But he's focusing very much on the process of reducing people's property values, and he has to walk a thin line because people wanted their property valuations reduced. That reduces their taxes.
Yeah, but you go to sell your house, and then you lose money on that end.
It's a double-edged sword.
It truly is a double-edged sword. Now, you talked about the flaws that Anita Lopez may have had as a candidate for mayor, but she comes into this office, or she's been in the office, and this campaign, much more confidence, right? I mean, she does the job.
Well, she knows the job of auditor. She's got ideas. She's got things she's talking about for 2015, and she's a practiced candidate, and nobody works harder on the campaign trail than Anita Lopez does. And she's got charisma, and she's a Democrat, and this is a Democrat county. So I would have to say that the office is hers to lose. But she's going to have a little tougher of a re-election campaign had she not tried to be mayor of Toledo.
Right, and John Navarre, by all accounts, will mount a spirited campaign here, right? As a Republican. You mentioned Lucas County is a Democratic county. Well, not according to the story I saw in your newspaper not long ago that says Lucas County, or I should say city of Toledo, is one of the most conservative big cities in the country.
Right.
Juxtaposition there.
Well, the people in Toledo are probably socially conservative. That's why you see, for example, Marcy Kaptur. Is she pro-life? Is she pro-choice on the issue of abortion? Yet she's a liberal and everything else. But regardless of that, this is not a Reagan Democrat kind of town. When the elections are held, the Democrat for president wins, the Democrat for governor wins. It's really a question on the part of the Republican Party: can we tamp down that Democratic outpouring of votes? And that's what they're going to be trying to do this election.
Well, in parts of Lucas County, you go outside the city, it becomes quite a bit more conservative.
Very much so.
And let's veer off and kind of move to the governor's race. And we did talk about this with Keith Burris and Schuyler last week. You know, can Ed Fitzgerald mount any sort of campaign here with everything that's happened to him? If you look at the tail of the tape, really, I don't know if it's unprecedented, but I mean, 5-1.
Yeah.
I mean, roughly.
Well, it's I think Kasich's up to $15 million, and I don't remember what Fitzgerald had. His numbers were late coming in yesterday, but he basically raised about $150,000 in this last month, whereas Kasich raised $1.5 million.
Okay.
So John Kasich is far and away raising the money, and Fitzgerald should have been raising money even before his embarrassments of the past month involving his driver's license and being in a car with a woman other than his wife. Even before those, his staff and his supporters were very frustrated with his unwillingness to raise money aggressively, to get on the phone and raise a lot of money. You know, they tried to spin that as a plus. He's not the type of guy that calls people up and asks for $10,000, but that's what you have to do.
Well, it's interesting. I believe it was one of the events this past week. He was there and said, I want to talk about serious issues, not driver's licenses.
That's right.
But is it hard to veer off into other issues when you still have that kind of confronting you?
Well, and that's going to stay out there because he never really answered the question to anybody's satisfaction. How can a normal adult person go for 10 years without a driver's license? You need your driver's license constantly to. And besides, you're the county executive of Cuyahoga County, you're the mayor of Lakewood, you're an assistant Cuyahoga County prosecutor. To be driving around without a license, it's just, people can't understand it. The other thing, you know, involving him in a car with the woman, that really is not, kind of in a way, is not the public's business. And he wasn't doing anything wrong. They didn't find him doing anything wrong. But to not have a driver's license, that was wrong. And so it's very hard for him to move on from that.
And going forward, and when you talk about the sheer dollars of it, difficult for him to mount.
But I wish he would have come out and answered the question to everybody's complete satisfaction. He bristles when you ask him the question. I've answered that question. And
that question was asked at the fairgrounds last week.
I asked him that question, and he did not want to be asked the question. He became somewhat irate at being asked a question.
This past week, a judge nixed part of a GOP-backed law on limiting early voting. And going forward for November, it looks like the so-called, is it Golden Week? Is kind of reinstated.
As things stand now.
And what does that mean going forward if you're conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat? I mean, going forward?
Net, it's a net gain for the Democrats because the numbers have shown that it's Democrats who use this extra 5 days of voting. What it does is it allows you to go in and register to vote and then vote on the same day. So it eliminates a step. The way things, without the Golden Week, you'd have to go in more than 30 days ahead of the election, register, then come back at the time of the election and vote. So if you're trying to get somebody to vote who doesn't vote very often, you can take them in and get it done in one trip. It adds a lot of votes, and typically those are Democratic votes. Of course, when you bring, if you're as a Democratic or a certain type of organizer and you bring someone to the Board of Elections to register and then vote, you don't control how they vote. Ethical persons won't even tell them how to vote, but the numbers tell the tale, and typically they vote Democratic.
All right, Tom Troy, lots of good topics this week. As always, thanks very much. We will see you next time on Conklin and Company. Thanks, Tom.
Sure.
And that will do it for this edition of Conklin and Company. Back next week. Make it a great Sunday, everybody. And we'll see you all this week on 13 ABC Action News. Take care.